Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's obviously been a hot minute since I've been here, but we're back. I haven't read much lately, but I have more than 10 books to recommend, and here are my ratings. So this is just a gentle reminder that some of my books are physical books and some of them are ebooks which I read on my tablet, so just ignore, I guess. This book I read was From Playground to Prostitute. This is actually a South African author that wrote this book, and it's based on her life story basically. The genre that I would put this in is a bio or autobiography. I had to look down to say that word right. Yeah, and also somewhat of Christian literature. There's a few moments where it's mentioned, and that's why we put it in that genre. And I rated this a whole 5. I rated this 5 stars. I think I'm very generous with my ratings when it comes to books because I love reading, and it takes a lot for me to give low reading scores. I read this in 4 hours and 45 minutes. Literally one day I was done with this. It was such a page turner, and I wanted to know where she was at every second of the way. So I highly recommend reading this book, especially it's very eye-opening on so many levels, and you would not want to put this back down. This is actually one of the books that I would want to reread again, and I haven't actually set time yet to read it, but it's too fresh to actually reread it anytime soon. So I will probably pick up this book, I'm not sure when, but it is on my rereading list. So 5 stars, From Playground to Prostitute by E. Kruger. It's a South African author, so highly recommend. I actually don't know when I got this book. I stole this book from my mom while we were on a holiday trip, and yeah, I was probably 13 or 14 when I took this from her, and I've always had it in my collection. I just never read it. Like, it was so jarring at the time, but now as an adult, scratch that, I'm not the adult. But now as I'm older, I really enjoyed this book because, as I said, it's very eye-opening. It's something every young woman should read, especially in South Africa. Just how quickly things can change in the blink of an eye. Pick it up. The next book I read was Throne of Glass by Ismas, and I was not prepared to dive into the world of Tog. I think that's what they call it on TikTok, but it had me. It really did. I don't know how to describe this book. I've read Akita last year, and then I was very much into the Iron Flame, Iron Storm series, and then I read this, which put me on pause for Onyx Storm, which we'll talk about again. So I read Throne of Glass, and I actually finished it in 8 hours and 5 minutes, which is a really long time. But keep in mind, I'm also a slow reader, so yeah. But I rated this 3 stars, and it's a fantasy book. I'm not sure why I rated it at 3 stars. I think it was just too much to get into, which when it comes to the first books of any series, it takes me a while to get into it, and there was just a lot going on, I guess, in my opinion, from what I'm trying to remember in all honesty. But I read it, and it took me 8 hours. I think I started in Jan, but it took a while to finish it. but it wasn't in one sitting, I'll say that. I think I was really overwhelmed when doing my TBR list in January, that I was trying to read as much books as possible, but it wasn't working out. So it took me a couple of days to finish this, but once I did, I think that's why I rated it low as well. So it's not really fair, but yeah, 3 stars. The next book I read was You, Me on Vacation. This I had to read because it reminded me of I would say my 16-year-old self, and just the dynamic, the friendship that she has with the guy. It was just, I took my sweet time reading this for obvious reasons. But it just reminded me so much of my 16-year-old self and a friend that I had at the time, and I was just like, no, I needed to take breaks in between reading this. But I do enjoy Emily Henry's books. I have a collection of her books. I don't have her recent books, but this was really good. It took me a really long time. I started reading it last year, and then I put it down, and I put it down for a really long time. And then when the year started, I had to reread it just because I forgot what was going on. But I would say, if you like Emily Henry, definitely give this a read. My favorite of hers is Book Lovers. I love the book. I can't. I read Book Lovers last year, and okay, we're not talking about Book Lovers, we're talking about You, Me on Vacation. But I gave this a 3 stars, and I finished it in 5 hours. And again, read it in January. It was a really good book. It's a very much romance novel vibes, and if you like that, definitely give it a go. What I liked about it was very slow pace, and sometimes not all authors get it right. Not all authors get it right when having this back and forth and slow romances, but I really did enjoy this because the spice, there's almost no spice, which I enjoy because I'm not very much into spicy books. But love this. I think this was my first romance. Yeah, this was my first romance book for the year of 2025. And stars for You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry, which, if you like romance, give it a go. So the next book I read was Romeo and Juliet, and I didn't read it on my tablet. I actually did it on my phone, so it's too small to see. I'll try to put a picture of it if it's possible, but I read Romeo and Juliet for the reason that I actually wanted to know if she was actually 13. And it took me right back to high school reading Shakespeare, and it took me right back to high school reading all these old literature books, and I have never understood and not understood something in the same setting. It was really hard for me to read Romeo and Juliet, and I think it's because I didn't appreciate it back then, and I still didn't appreciate it right now. It sounds so harsh, but like I mentioned, I purely read it because I actually wanted to know if she was really 13, and she was 13. So yeah, it wasn't really that I wanted to read Romeo and Juliet. It was purely based on the reason of age and understanding the dynamic at the time. And I think I would have to read it again to give it a better rating or so, but I just don't see myself reading Romeo and Juliet anytime soon. Yeah, but I did it in 3 hours. It was such a, I don't want to say it was an easy read because I read it in one sitting as well, but it was easy in the sense it's dialogue. You can scan through dialogue as fast as possible. You can get it done. Again, would I reread it anytime soon? I highly doubt so. Yeah, I don't think anything is pulling me to read that again. Next we have Safe Haven by In Sparks. This book was gifted to me on my birthday by my dear cousin, and I loved it. I've never watched the movie. There's a movie about this, and I read the book first before I watched the movie, and I have to say it was such a wonderful experience reading this. It reminds me of, I have two favorite books which we'll get into when we get into it, but I have to put this somewhere on top there because for someone that's never watched the movie, I didn't know what I was getting myself into reading Safe Haven, but when I did, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I rated Safe Haven 5 stars. Yeah, 5 stars, and I read it in 9 hours, which I would say I did it in a couple of days. 9 hours though, but it was something that I was reading at the time that I wasn't reading any other book while reading this. It was purely just I wanted to know how this was going to end, and I'm so happy about it. I think there's slight differences in the movie and the book, but I loved reading the book. I think the book is way better than any movie, and I think it's very rare that you get movies that actually accurately depict what you're reading. So yeah, I really want to reread this, and I'm just waiting for it to pop out of my brain a bit before I go back into it. But I would recommend this to anyone, and I'm really grateful for my cousin for getting me this, because he told me that he was standing in front of all of the books because he didn't know what to get, and then he chose this because he was like, this is something I would read, and I would have never picked it up because it's a movie vibe, but I loved it. Is One of Us is back. So I know there's a TV series about this, however I only watched the first season and I couldn't really get myself into it, to be honest, but I had the books on PDF versions. So I read One of Us is Back. This is also something I read last year, and then I got so sidetracked because I watched the series, and I don't think I should have done that because to me it's a bit different than reading the books. So I read this about 14% on Apple Books. I don't know how to calculate that, but I read this 14% and then I watched season 1 of One of Us is Back. But it's very much mystery fiction, and I love mystery books, and yeah, I enjoyed this. I like that each chapter was dedicated to each main character, and yeah, it's something that I will reread again. But I think with this series I would have to read the entire series at the same time, because what I did, which was a mistake, is I read book 1 last year, and then I read, and then I put it down, and then I read again. So that was generally not a way to read this book, and I actually didn't continue watching the series because it really made me put down the book. So One of Us is Back, I rated this 3 stars, and I read this in 5 hours and 35 minutes. And yeah, I just read it because I wanted to get it done with. And this is book 3. This is the last book that I had left to read about it. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I would say that I'm probably not gonna watch this series just because I preferred the book so much, as well as the fact that I'm not really into watching TV. If there's a book about it, I will much rather read the book. And I feel like the series are quite different to watch. I feel like the series is much different than what I pictured in my head reading One of Us is next, which is, but One of Us is Back, which is the last book. And then, as you can see, I went back to Adelaide. I think that's the country or the city, I don't know. But I went back to my girl Selena, and I am so deep into this. I love I can't get to the prince's name, but I prefer him than Cole. Dorian. Yes, I love Dorian. I don't think Cole. I'm not a shipping of Cole. And then I think they're actually cousins, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But I love Crown of Midnight. I think it genuinely transported me into a different universe. I would say that the writing in this, it had me in a chokehold, honestly. The way that they describe these places and the people, I could see it as I was reading it, and that's what I love when you have books. I want to know where I'm going. I want to see it. And I think I rated this 4 stars. Yeah, I rated this 4 stars, and I read this in 10 hours. Again, didn't read it in one sitting, read it in a few days, but would definitely reread it. I'm actually on the 3rd book at the moment, which is basically the first book, and I would say that I should have read that first. I know when you go on the site and you type in the way that you should read these books, they suggest Assassin's Blade to read it 3rd. I actually would say read Assassin's Blade first and then start reading Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, because the way that it put me back, I just don't like it. I would have wanted to know a backstory before I actually gotten to know who she became. And yeah, I love Dorian. I think there's different characters that are going to come up. I think I'm 50 pages away of the 3rd book, and I'm procrastinating it because once you start reading it, you don't want to put it down. So 4 stars, did it in 10 hours, genuinely loved it. And I think it comes from me liking ACOTAR. So I read the whole ACOTAR series last year and it was really good, and then this was on TikTok recommendation and I was like, love this too. But people, they love Throne of Glass series. I don't know. Yeah, I love it, but yeah, I'm more of an Iron Flame girly. But because it's more and I get to read it, I love Selena. And yeah. So Where the Crawdads Sing. I started reading this last year and I was about 40 pages in and I did not get it. I didn't understand the world of, I don't know what the world is, but Kaya. I couldn't get into it, and I think it was purely based on the way that they communicate and the writing of it. So that was something I was having so much trouble with. And then I saw that they actually had a movie of it, so I watched the movie, and watching the movie actually really helped in the fact that hearing these people speak helped me to actually read it better. I don't know if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I don't know. If it does, let me know so I don't feel so alone. But I actually like this book. I actually genuinely liked it. When I started reading it again this year, I started all from over. And yeah, the book was so much better than the movie. I would say the only thing that probably I didn't like was, okay, there was nothing that I didn't like, to be honest. I rated 4 stars, and it was also a mystery, not really a thriller, but I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. I would have hoped that she found her other siblings and not just her brother, but that's just my opinion. And Like yeah, I feel so much for Kaya and the things that she endured growing up. But Tate was a dream, you know, and he was young and he made some mistakes along the way, but he really is. He stuck by her and he protected her even when she was gone. And that that just got my heart, honestly. And I read this in 8 hours. I read this in 8 hours when I started rereading it, and it was really good. I will read. This is also on my rereading TBR, which I wouldn't read it anytime soon. I think when it comes to books, I really have to give it some time for me to forget what's going on before I start rereading it. But again, another 4 star out of 5, and highly recommend, because this is a murder mystery, and because I watched the movie, obviously I knew who it was. But yeah, I'm so excited for this. The Da Vinci Code. I don't know, I think this should be my thumbnail because I have nothing bad to say about this book. It should be illegal. But yeah, I rated it 5 stars. She's thick. Yeah. But I stole this from my dad. He read it one time and I think I was about 10 years old, and I thought this was the coolest thing ever because it's like people that are smart read this, right? And I remember I stole this from my dad, and yeah, I had it ever since. This is another book that I took from the collection and I hid away and put it in my collection, and then I read it. And let me just say, chokehold. Apparently there's a movie. I haven't watched it. I loved it. It's about 600 pages, I'd say, but the chapters are really nice and it's short and it's a real page turner. I read this in 12 hours and 8 minutes. That's a really long time, but I read this on my own. No other books during the breaks, it was just this book. So I think it maybe took me a week, maybe 10 days to finish this. And when I say I love this book so much, it looks so raggedy. I tried to find a new copy of this, but I think there's a series when it comes to this. I'm not certain, but yeah, I would definitely need a new copy. But I love this book, and I even love it more that it's so used and it's been abused along the way as we're moving about. But yeah, I would give anything to reread this, and I'm so upset that it took me so long to read this. But yeah, I remember I went to the beach reading this, I went to the cafe reading this, I went on a walk and I was reading. I could not put the Da Vinci Code down. So if you like novel, thriller, mystery vibes, definitely read this. And I would say, I don't know what to say about this. There's truly nothing bad to say about this besides the fact that I realized reading this that I need a dictionary, because there were so many words that I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I know how to use it in a sentence, but what does it mean? So now I'm waiting for my pocket dictionary to come on Amazon. And yeah, I had that. And then also they speak French, so I had to translate it, and that was really fun. Art when I was younger made me appreciate this book so much more, because when you study art and when you do art, it's a total different experience than when you're reading it from an author's perspective, and you learn so much more that you didn't think you know. And yeah, I was so surprised reading this and I enjoyed it. I want to reread it. What I would give to reread this book, honestly. But yeah, I want to get some more Dan Brown books, and like I said, I think there's a series when it comes to this, and I need to check it out because I genuinely want it. Because if there is a series, I don't think that this was the first. Yeah, I know these are angels and demons. Yeah. I haven't, and also I haven't watched the movie because I'm so afraid the movie's going to spoil the book for me. But I think that I should put my brain aside and just watch it. I don't know. Yeah, I love this book. I haven't even packed it away. That's how much I care for this book. Because normally when I'm done with the book, I pack it away, but this is still there. And it's also such a conversation starter. That's what I realized having this book and going about with it. Everyone was like, oh, what you read? I'm like, Da Vinci Code. I felt so smart reading it. Like, my whole life made sense. But yeah, I loved it. Book that I finished was a favorite. So I have two favorite books. One is Redeeming Love, and the next one is Little Women. Let me just tell you, I love Little Women, and I'm going to reread this. I don't care that it's still fresh in my noggin. When it comes to my favorite books, which I only have two, by the way, besides Da Vinci, that I need to put on the list. When it comes to my favorite books, I try to read it every year, at least one time. I don't think I can do this with Little Women, especially with the fact that TikTok gives me so many Amy March videos because I relate so much to Amy. And yeah, I love Amy. I love Little Women. I feel like this is just, again, this is such a classic, in my opinion. Just my opinion, don't shoot the messenger. I feel like this is such a classic, Little Women. When I read it though, I was gifted this as well. When I read it, I read the PDF version, which I'm not going to show because lighting and things like that. But I also have the physical. So I have the PDF version of Little Women, and then I have the physical version of it. The only reason why I might reread this very soon is because I read the PDF version and not the physical book. So it's in my head, that's different. So yeah, so loved it. I read Little Women in 10 hours. Some of the chapters are really long. What I loved about Little Women, and what I still love about Little Women, there's so many hidden gems in it. And when I say hidden gems, I mean when it comes to faith. I think their mom, she's such an angel, the way she takes care of these girls, and the way that they grew up. I don't know, I'm like proud mom vibes, but I'm a very proud reader when it comes to the 4 girls. And yeah, the first time I read it, I loved Amy. The second time I read it, still love Amy. My mind will not change. I'm an Amy March girl. Yeah, and also I watched the movie, and Florence, she did an excellent job as Amy. It was amazing. Again, what I would do to reread this book, actually I'm still gonna reread it. I don't need time for it to buffer. I love Little Women. 5 stars. Actually, infinity stars. It's a favorite. Infinity. We're on to Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. First things first, babe, I have a bone to pick with you. I heard that you're gonna take a break between this book and the 4th one. What do you mean you need to spend time with your family? I'm not okay. And then also, I was on the side of TikTok where people are very much upset with the ending. I'm not. There's missing time and I need to know what happened. But I'm not upset with the ending. I get it that a lot of readers are feeling like it's rushed. However, I don't think so. I loved it. I love the ending because there was so much more that I wanted to know. And It was genuinely, you reading it, it's on a cliffhanger on your page, and it's just, it's dead, there's nothing. And I always think I need to prepare myself when it comes to the Imperium. It's the Imperium. Yeah, the Imperium. The Imperium world. Clearly I haven't learned my lesson, because I read the first one and I was like, what's going on? I need the second one. And then I read the second one and I was like, I need the third. So what I did was I actually got this book when it dropped. So I pre-ordered it. It came on the exact date. I was very lucky. I read it, and like I said, I was reading so much on my TBR that I was getting overwhelmed, and then I was in a reading slump and I just didn't want to read at all. And then I finished it. And I also didn't want to be greedy, because I knew that I might only be getting the next one 25 years. So yeah, I read this in 20 hours. I gave it a 3 stars. And not because it was 3 stars. My rating is purely based on the fact that where's the 4th? Yeah. And Zayden. Let me just say, it's spicy. It's really spicy. And yeah, like going to reread the Imperium series. I need to read it in one sitting though. But it's spicy. I thought, you know, book 2, when they're having these mind conversations in the lunchroom, that was a lot for me. Yeah, that's all I can say. But I loved it. The way her writing is, it takes me to the universe, and that's all that I want in a book. And I love fantasy. It's just, there's something about it, you know. I can't have no words. I'm stuck on the spice, honestly. I don't know what to say. I'm tearing up. But yeah, that's it. So that was my books that I read so far in 2025. Comment down below what you actually want to see on my channel, because I love watching 24-hour reading videos. What are people reading 24 hours? And I feel like I could easily do that. Am I? Probably not. I feel like I can do that. I feel like I can do a 24-hour reading video vlog. Am I? Probably not. But do I want to? Yeah, definitely do. The only reason why is because I'm in bed by 7. No one is able to call me, text me after 7. Yeah. But maybe I should try. Because that's my motto of the year. You can't say no unless you tried it. I still say no a lot. Here we are. Either way, that's been my video. Please like and subscribe and share. I don't know what my next video will be, but thank you for sticking it out. Bye!